Peace. Brought to you by I Am Phenomenal Unlimited. This is the Speak Your Mind podcast. Peace. Brought to you by I Am Phenomenal Unlimited. This is the Speak Your Mind podcast, hosted by the Queen, Shanice Gatewood Ali, and the God, I Be. Speak Your Mind, an open line podcast delves into the week's current events, trending topics, and the social issues that affect Black people in America. Peace, peace, peace. Welcome to the Speak Your Mind podcast with the Ali special edition. Peace. It's happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. It's happy Juneteenth weekend to all the people out there, all the original peoples of the planet Earth. Today's math is June 20th, 2021. 20 is wisdom cipher. Wisdom is the wise words, ways, and actions that you manifest your knowledge by utilizing on a daily basis. Once you add this wisdom to the cipher, a wise man will come out of the cipher because he will listen to the wisdom that you add on to him. And whatever you add on to the cipher is always going to be fruitful because it's a manifestation of the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding that you bring forth on a daily basis. So today is Father's Day, and we're going to talk about Father's Day, but we're also going to talk about our recent trip that we took to the museum in Baltimore. But peace to the Queen. Peace, Queen.
Peace. How's everybody doing? Happy Father's Day to you, my king, and all the other kings out there. Happy Father's Day. I hope everybody's enjoying their day. We are working, as always.
Well, got to do what we got to do. We made a commitment to do something for the people, so I guess this is what we're going to have to do for the next few weeks. I think we're going to take a break soon, though.
Really? Aww.
Take a break. I think 20 or so episodes, we may have to take a break and then come back.
Okay. I mean, we don't want to lose our people, so...
Right.
If we do take a break, we got more information coming up. So, we might go on vacation and come back and share. Because, one thing that we like to do is not just sit back and just say, oh, that's it. Life is everything. Yes, but we also want to do educational things as well, as we will show in our trip away. So we want to bring something back to those who never ever visit the Natural Black Wax Museum. I know I went on Facebook and did a video, but it's nothing like showing you the pictures as well.
Right. So I don't know what a good benchmark would be. Would 30 episodes be a good benchmark? 20, 50? Which one would be a good one?
I don't even know where we at right now. Like we just enjoy doing this. I don't know. Let's figure it out. Let's figure it out as that time comes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, first we're going to start out with Father's Day because today is Father's Day. Even though it's Juneteenth weekend, we can't have everything meshed in and not celebrate each thing separately as well. So, we definitely want to talk about Father's Day, and the Queen is going to definitely give us a little bit of information about how Father's Day started. Because, we celebrate these holidays, but, as the Queen said earlier, we really don't know where these holidays come from.
Absolutely. So, that was my point. I never even thought of it like this. Like, who came up with Father's Day? What's the history on Father's Day? So we are those who do our research because we are definitely educators. And, the main thing is to do our research. So we always celebrate these holidays and don't even know who started it. Even though we know Mother's Day, Father's Day, Grandparents' Day, whatever it is that we give a day to, a symbolic day to, we do it every day. You don't stop being the father just because the children are older, just because they might not be around. No matter what, your fatherly instincts and your motherly instincts kick in when you get a phone call from one of the children. So, with that, Father's Day started. Well, this article came from, should we say it?
Yeah.
Okay, this article came from India Today. So, India Today put this out, and it's still helpful and fruitful because they're talking about still America. So I'm going to summarize it, sums it up when I get further into it. So Father's Day was first celebrated in 1972 when U.S. President Richard Nixon signed a declaration for it. Remind you, it was signed in the declaration in 1972 that this particular third Sunday, if I'm not mistaken, the third Sunday of every month is going to be Father's Day. But like I said, Father's Day is every day. So let's make sure we make that clear. So there was a young lady, Caucasian lady, Miss Dudd, okay, Sonia Dudd, celebrated and honored her dad in 1908. 1908, she, Caucasian woman, celebrated and honored her father. So Father's Day is celebrated to acknowledge the efforts of fathers and to thank them for their efforts. For their efforts. Okay? So let's stroll all the way down and talk about the history. So Father's Day was first celebrated in the United States when hundreds of men died in the Manning
Mining.
mining mishap
Mishap.
on July 5th, 1908, in West Virginia, USA. The daughter of a dedicated Reverend Grace Golden proposed a Sunday service for all the men who lost their lives in the accident. A few years later, Sonia Dudd suggested that the idea of observing Father's Day in the honor of her father, William Jackson Smart Dudd's father, who was a Civil War veteran, raised her and her five siblings as a single parent. She started promoting Father's Day at a national level after she completed her education. Father's Day started gaining popularity in the U.S. when President Richard Nixon signed a declaration in the year of 1972. And since then, Father's Day is celebrated every year on the third Sunday of June.
Wow. Excellent. So this is a short history of Father's Day. And as she said in the beginning, Father's Day has been picked up in other countries since it was first celebrated in the U.S. So we just wanted to give a quick history on what Father's Day is and where it came from. Also, I just wanted to salute to all the fathers that are out there today listening, all the fathers that are celebrating, all the fathers that are happy to get their socks and their tie that they're never gonna wear on Father's Day. Because you know what we get. We get a pair of socks or a tie or some drugstore cologne on Father's Day. But it's the thought that counts, and we love y'all. We love y'all anyway. It's always the thought that counts. But next time, buy me a car or something.
Buy you a car?
Yeah. I want a car.
Well, it's funny because some of us, women and the children, don't know what to buy the fathers. Really don't know. Some we go out there, for the mothers, y'all go and get candy and the cards and the flowers. Who to say that the men do not want flowers? Who to say that the men don't want candy or a card? Majority of the time they go out there and do give Father's Day cards. I personally don't agree on the cards. I show my action by giving my actions, not just by a card. Because anybody can give you a card and say, "Here, sign it," and then their action is totally different. So I don't really, I don't really do the card thing. Um, so sometimes we don't know. Sometimes we don't know. And I remember I asked you, "What do you want for Father's Day?" What did you tell me?
I want a Patriot Blue Charger.
That's not what you said.
Oh,
See,
Polo?
you said, I said, "What do you want to do? What you want?" You said, "Nothing."
Oh, yeah, well, I lied. I want
Right.
a Patriot Blue Charger, so I can zoom on down the highway. I can hit that highway, hit them high speeds on the highway, have me some fun. No.
Well, I can help you rent that one. Oh gosh.
Right.
So, next time dad or daddies out there, unfortunately my father passed away, but I'm sure if he was alive, I would say, that, what do you want for Father's Day? When knowing me, I will probably cook a big old meal for my two kings, which is my father and my husband. So, um, yeah.
Well, that's official. So once again, happy Father's Day to everybody that's out there. We just recently took a nice trip, so we want to make sure that everybody could share in the things that we saw on our trip. But before we get into that, is there any other announcements or whatever so have you want to get into before we get into our
Our
presentation
trip.
information for today? Yeah.
I do want to mention we have a shoe drive going on. And I would like for anyone who hears me or share this video to go into your closet and get those shoes that's too little for you, too little for your children, or too little for your husband or boyfriend, whoever that might be in your household. If it's too little, or those shoes that you just bought and you're like, they don't look right, whatever the case might be, those shoes that you do not use, wear, or just too little, please feel free to reach out to Shanice, S Gatewood, WAPW at gmail.com. That's once again SGATEWOOD WAPW at gmail.com. We are collecting shoes for the whole entire month of June, July, and the beginning of August. We will be sending those shoes out to other countries that might be in use of shoes.
So how many bags of shoes did you say we're trying to get?
We are we are looking for 100 bags. So that's 25 pair of shoes in each bag. So if you have 5, your friend have 5, whoever that got 5, and it equal to 25, or if you got 25, if we put it in the bag, we want to say thank you for your donation and your support.
Excellent. Excellent. So how you want to do this? How you want to do this today? You want to go to the videos first or the pictures first? How you want to do this as far as?
So, let's try videos first. The videos cool. And
Okay.
the pictures was cool too. First of all, let's just say we just planned this. It was something I always wanted to do, and we've been talking about it for days, and we just upright just left Thursday. And Friday, if anybody who would like to go to the museum, is always best to reach out and see if you need to make reservations due to the fact the whole COVID situation. We still want to be able to get in there.
We want to talk about reservations.
Oh gosh, no, not. So the Natural Black History, the Natural Black Wax Museum is in Baltimore, and sometimes you think places is too far. But if you got a car, your friend got a car, y'all all put up that gas money or them toll money, It is only 3 hours away. Let me just say that. 3 hours away. It depends on where you live. 3 hours away. And we just, in the morning or the
Just a
afternoon,
little bit, a
we
little
just left.
smidgen.
And it was really, really, it was a cool experience. On Friday, we just got up and we just went on to the museum. It was hot. It was nice and hot, getting some of that good old sun, vitamin D. And wow, we did not know that we was going to come into a museum that was like, whoa, you know, it was really good. Oh, that's me. Okay.
That's
See, I'm still with the mask on in the museum. And the museum was hot as well. Lord.
right.
It was hot. Oh my goodness.
So this is the first video
Hmm.
narrated by my beautiful queen.
Good afternoon, Facebook family. So as I said, I will go live when I get into the museum. I'm just want to show y'all just a little bit, a little smidget for those who know our history and those who don't know our history. I just want to show y'all why it's so important for us to stick together. Let me just show y'all.
So here is the slave plantation, how they used to beat us
This is the cotton planet,
when
cotton plant grown in little town, Littleton, North Carolina.
mhm,
It's
how
kind of
used to
so
beat us when we used to pick the cotton. And here is when they shoved
wow. What is that?
whatever that was,
What's feeding him? What?
trying to
I know, but what
shove
is it?
some stuff in his mouth. I couldn't even tell you what it was because it looks like crap.
This is the auction,
Yeah, they was force feeding him. I guess he
right?
refused to eat. They just started shoving food down his
Wow.
mouth. They'd break out all your teeth and then
Wow.
stuff that funnel in you. And right there you have the iron mask. And that's for slaves that refuse to be broken, meaning they refuse to be slaves. So they would put that iron mask on them and make them suffer so that they couldn't even eat, they couldn't even socialize, they couldn't do anything.
Wow. And this here is the slave
Spaceship.
ship.
Okay. Or the Bahama, President Obama. Okay. Into the slave ship. So we're about to go downstairs. I'm not sure if y'all can see it. Baby, can you put your light on? So that way y'all can see. Hold on, everyone. What the heck is that? Oh,
I'm old, everybody.
this is. Oh. Oh my gosh. Wow.
That right
I
there,
am at the Wax
in them quarters right
Museum
there,
in Baltimore.
that's where they would rape. That's where they would rape the slaves at, the quarters they just showed. This right here is the hull of the ship. I know it's moving kind of fast, but we're gonna show you some pictures after the video. See, those are whips.
The woman's quarter. The raping of a woman. Wow.
It's raping the women in there, the female quarters.
Wow. Look how many people. Were they dead?
It's the hull of the ship.
Look.
You know, they would stack as many people, you know, from head to toe as they could inside of the slave ship, so that they could get the most people across the ocean. You know, they knew if they packed them as tight as they possibly could, they probably would lose a bunch of them, but the ones that remained, they would be able to sell.
We wanted to do something different. You know, everybody's celebrating June 19th with the barbecue. You know, barbecue celebration. I'm not knocking nobody, but this is something that we wanted to do different and bring this to the people in our community who never been to this museum and don't understand how it's so important.
That's how they would punish.
To, as Queen Lo would say, it's very important to put together your will. You know, I understand celebrate life. This is great. But look of all the lives that did the work for us, and we still doing the work for others as we continue our journey as a Black woman, Black man, king and queen, living in this mess.
I wanted to say so much more. So here is where they do the offering, and they give them a little thing of water.
Yeah, that's for
glass of water.
That's for libation right there, actually.
Oh, okay.
Paying homage to the ancestors. That's people doing some traditions.
I'm going to move over here.
We at this point. Oh, okay. I thought we were trying to find our way out.
No, just the front part.
Wow.
Just get
Brandon.
see, they branding. That's how they brand the slaves.
Wow.
That hot metal, they would heat that metal up and then press it on the slave so that they could have a branding symbol on it.
Yeah, I guess he was next.
Those are some of the people that started the museum.
Mm-hmm.
Slave ship. Okay, I'm about to log. Yeah, funny. Christians, Catholics use that same set.
Yeah, you can stop it now.
Right.
You can
Right, sister. Ain't that something? So, look what Cornisha said. Funny how Christians and Catholics.
Yeah, so that's the first video right there. So that right there is like when you first come in the museum. When you first come in the museum, you can make a left and go downstairs, and it's basically they recreated a slave ship and all of the things that go on within the slave ship. So we went down there and we showed y'all firsthand what we saw. So now we're gonna show you some pictures, some stills, so you can check it out. Are you seeing it?
No, I don't see the pictures.
You don't see the pictures right now?
So as he's getting the pictures together, somebody said it kicked up feelings. And of course, it's supposed to kick up feelings in you, especially when, these things has been done have been done to our ancestors. And it's still going on, but not at this point, at this same, it's modern, what's going on right now. Okay. What is that?
Okay, this is when you first come in the museum, right? This is the first thing that you see, right? And it's talking about, history of our ancient people, the traditions of our ancient people before coming to America, right? This is some of the cultures that was in Africa. A high percentage of us come from Western Africa as far as the DNA story tells that many of us come from Western Africa. So this is some of the cultures from West Africa. See this? This is a cultural symbol, statue. You see what he has around his neck. Right. So this right here is that iron mask that we was talking about earlier. And this right here was used for slaves for people. They weren't even slaves. These were people that was kidnapped. And if they refused to be a slave, they would put them into these different torturing mechanisms, such as the iron mask. Now, this person would be locked into this iron mask, and they wouldn't have a way to eat. They wouldn't have a way to, really move around at liberty until, they break.
Until they break. And then they wouldn't feed them, right?
Right. So it says right here, the iron mask. The slave who refused to be broken was often the victim of the instrument of torture that was designed for the slow, torturous starvation of its victim. The mask was put on the face, fastened in the back around the neck, and fastened again to the wall. There was just enough holes in for the person locked inside to breathe, but that person could not eat or drink. The device was intended to give the slave two choices: either slowly starve to death or give to the will of the master.
Mm-mm-mm.
Right. And they had the iron collar and the waist restraint with the bells as well. So, you know, and this right here is talking about the slave auction. If you ever saw the video Bitter Men, put Google Bitter Men or put it in your Facebook search bar. Bitter Men, it's a video about the slave auction where they will put us up on the blocks and they will bid on the different slaves that came over after they was captured from Africa. I might have to show that video.
Okay.
Right. So this is a picture of a young man that has been captured, and he's standing there next to the person that's being force fed. As the Queen spoke about, when slaves, when the captured people would refuse to eat, they would bust out their teeth, break out their teeth, and they would force feed them through a funnel. They were also forced them to dance while they were on the ship. So this was the captain of the ship when we first came into the ship. The first room had the captain, and this is his mate. And then we get down to the Brandon, and then they talk about the raping of the women in the women's quarters, right? So you see that. This is in the women's quarters. So basically, the women, they had no defense against these people that was taking over, that had basically captured them and had them on the ship. They separated them from the men and they did whatever they wanted to do to these women. So this is a picture of the whips and the different things. And they also used to behead. They used to behead those that they couldn't break, and they would basically let the faces and the heads rot around the ship so that people could be in terror.
Mm-hmm.
You watch these movies, these these horror films and stuff like that. This is this type of stuff that they had people under in these ships. So it was like a horror story. So you have, you see this head right here. It's a beheaded African that they would just let the head rot so that the rest of the people that was on the ship would be in fear, in a constant state of fear. See, it says it right here. Beheading as a means of control. Two of the biggest fears of the captain and crew were slaves would either commit suicide or rebel. As a measure to prevent both, the captain would sometimes cut off the head of an African as a warning to captives of what might happen if they did not behave.
Mm-hmm.
So these are some of the tools, as you can see, the whips, the keys, that paddle. So this is the boys' quarters. So they took youth and they took adults. So they had boys' quarters and they had men's quarters and they had women's quarters.
Mm-hmm.
This is the hull of the ship. We went over that. Men's quarters. See, they got them stuffed in there, very tight.
Hmm.
Thirst and starvation. Toilet conditions. We got sickness, disease, and death. The sick on board constituted the majority. I found many afflicted with smallpox, still more with ophthalmia. The majority of what remained with dysentery, ulcers, emaciation, and exhaustion. The most distressing sight was the pest-laden ladder deck, where the Negroes whom had ophthalmia were struck blind. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the sick and dying slaves. This talks about the mutinies. So, at no point during the slave trade was it just a peaceful situation. Like the people that were captured from Africa, they rebelled all the way from the African shores. There was many wars to fight against being captured. And on the ships, there was many different rebellions, as you can see in movies like Amistad. And then even when we got here, there was many insurrections on the plantations. So never think that it was just something that people just went with. It wasn't just a choice just to be a slave. No, people fought back every chance that they could.
Didn't somebody say that it was a choice to be a slave?
Yeah, Kanye West said that. But that was a very misinformed statement that he made. I
Mm-hmm.
understand what he was trying to say, but still, it was a misinformed statement. So this right here is they were showing how they would whip them until they would bleed and like the skin will open up, and then they will put gunpowder on the wound and just let them bake in the sun. With the two punishment for rebellious slaves, with the two leaders of the revolt, we wanted to set an example for their comrades. Yesterday at 8 a.m., the most guilty slaves were taken onto the deck where they were spread out on their stomachs. We whipped them until the incisions were so deep that they could lay our fingers in the wounds. We scarified their buttocks until chunks of flesh tore apart and fell off. Once they were bleeding from the lashes, we rubbed the wounds with cannon powder, lemon juice, and brine of pepper. This mixture cooked their butts. After 4 days of such punishment, the last of them died. Their heads were cut off to show to the comrades who believed that a severed body could never return to Africa. We made all of the other slaves kiss their heads. Then we threw the bodies into the sea and the heads right on the mast of the ship. So this was the libation that she showed you. This was libation for all of those that died. If you wanted to give libation, like the pour the water and make offering to the ancestors, they had that in the Wax Museum. So this is a poem. And these are some of the pictures on the way out. Okay. So now, I think we're ready for our next video. We want to talk about that before we go to the next video?
I don't know what the next video look like.
No, I'm saying you want to talk about what we just saw, how it made you
Um,
feel.
Use that same setup as orphan.
it was
That's a fact.
it was very
Yep.
disturbing. You know, it was very disturbing, and it will really break you down emotionally because for those who don't understand history, you know, not everybody's your friend. You know, and these things happen, and since
One
I
share,
knew
share.
about our history, it upset me because now is in my face. You know, I'm able to see and not witness, but I was able to see what it really looked like. You know, so it was very disturbing, upsetting. Um, yeah, I'm gonna keep it there. How
Right.
did you feel about it?
So I don't want to say I'm desensitized to it at this point, but I've been looking at these images for so long now that I wasn't really surprised at what I saw. I consider myself a race man, so I study race on a consistent basis, and these images of slavery and what they did to our people on the middle passage, which some people call the Ma'afa. These horrors is something that I have been reading about and looking at for so many years, but to see lifelike presentations of it, you know,
Right,
it brought it did, as you said, it brought it to life with it being in your face. That's a
right.
fact. So can you see this next video?
Yes, good.
All right, let me start this up.
Okay, I'm back. I need y'all to share, share, share what I'm showing everyone. Share, share, share. Tag people, let people see
Mind you, we're not supposed to be
this
filming
here.
inside of the Wax Museum,
Right.
so we're bringing this to you exclusive.
So this was the black church. Um, the
Guess I gotta
names is at the bottom.
because it said
You don't really see. I can't see that.
video
It
or
says
something
Black
to that effect.
Christians, Christianity in Black America,
I need to cut
Hmm.
it off.
Mother
Somebody else
Mary
start using,
Elizabeth Lang,
and I'll come back on.
Bishop James Varick, Mary Talbot Jones, and Andrew Bryan,
There's one more.
and Richard Allen of the AME Church, founder and bishop, 1760, I think that's that.
Hmm.
So Absalom Jones, African American abolitionist and clergyman, 1746.
It's hot. Whew, it's hot in here.
I think you did. You show this picture?
Yeah, I was just about. Okay, so this is a picture of a skier the Great. He came into power after um Mansa Musa. Years later, I think he was part of the Songhay Empire, and that right there is a depiction of Bilal, who was the first muezzin of the Muslim religion. He was a partner of Muhammad, the prophet.
Oh wow.
He
Y'all
was
see that?
Islam's first muezzin,
Yeah, put my-
600 AD.
Wow. Oh my gosh! Look on the spaceship. How do you
This
put
is
somebody
when they
that
throw
off
them off.
the thing?
Right.
As you mentioned, you know, those who are not um doing what is being said, and they beat them and put cayenne pepper on their scar and what is that, lemon juice and a whole bunch of other stuff. After
Yeah.
a while, you know, when they die, they just throw them over.
That's why they had a lot of sharks that would follow the ships.
Hmm.
So now we're getting into history before slavery, and some of it was during.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of this is African history.
Yeah.
So this is the 42 Principles of Ma'at, which is a Kemet tradition.
Hmm. Can you turn around for a second? You see your shirt that you brought.
You trying to promote. So yeah, that's our shirts right there. Call me King Not Nigga. Reach out to Shanice Get With Ali if you want to get one of those shirts. And we have the female version. Call me Queen Not Bitch.
Here it did I get the information
It would have been
on
nice to have a tour guide.
here?
So that's like an African village, like the stuff that would happen, like actual culture of being in the African village. So they just made a miniature depiction of it.
Okay. I thought they was celebrating. But I don't see food and stuff, so
So this is the depiction of Hatshepsut, which was a female pharaoh, a woman pharaoh. That right there is Queen Anne and Zinga.
mm-hmm.
Oh, you see the queen, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
This is how they
Wow.
depicted Queen Anne and Zinga from Angola.
Look at her shabby clothes, her beautiful clothing.
And that right there is the warrior king, Shaka Zulu.
Warrior.
This right here is the multi-genius Imhotep from the Kemet tradition. He was one of the people who created the step pyramid. He actually designed it of Saqqara, I think.
They look real. It's hot in here.
I kept saying it. It was hot.
So we came out of Kemet, and for some reason they took us to Fubu. So
Right.
these these are the brothers who created Fubu, the four brothers that originally started Fubu. As you know, Fubu stood for us, by us. That's the brother from Shark Tank, Damon John.
Wow.
And here we have William Hartley Hailing.
100 black women. Okay.
100 black men.
Okay, so these are the founders of 100 Black Men. Thomas W. Dorsch Jr.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Some of them, I think one of the brothers is from Black Entrepreneur.
Oh yeah, Black Enterprise, right? That was the founder of Black Enterprise, the brother next to him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this brother right here.
Have you seen all this again?
So in this room, they had pictures of many of the greats. Mahalia Jackson, as you can see there. Who's this right here? What did I say?
I can't see that.
I think it's Mary McLeod Bethune, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think so. Yep.
Yeah, her right there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We got here. Oh, this is Adam Clayton Powell,
Mm-hmm.
7th Avenue, named after.
Wow.
It's right here. Down in the square is Thurgood Marshall. I think he fought Brown versus Board of Education. Then you got Dr. Benjamin Hooks. I wonder if I'm related to this guy.
Oh, the hooks. Yeah.
So we got Clarence M. Mitchell Jr.
Mitchell. I wonder if he's related to Reggie.
Shout out to Reggie.
And the queen,
What's the queen's name? I couldn't catch it.
Shirley Chisholm.
Oh, Shirley Chisholm. Okay, Shirley Chisholm, the one who ran for president.
Mm-hmm.
And here we have the first African American president, Obama. Barack Hussein Obama.
They said 2.5, I think.
24% African American, 25 and over have not graduated from high school. 26.5 of African Americans live below the poverty line. The struggle continues. The struggle continues.
I have that. That's why I kept saying.
I don't know why that was.
African Americans represent 15% of the U.S. drug users. African Americans represent 48.2% of American adults in state or federal prison. Homicide is the leading cause of death among African Americans. Makes males aged 15 to 24.
Mm-hmm.
Between 1976 to 2004, I lost it. Okay,
Stop that.
that's the end of that video. So what's your thoughts on that?
So I just want to say to those who may be watching or those who might be watching later, this is the Ali sharing our trip to the Natural Black Wax Museum. For those who do not know where's that, it's in Baltimore. And how I felt about that, I was pleased to see the kings and queens in Africa. Um, they always try to make us feel as we're stupid, we don't have anything, we are less than, And when I say those people, everyone should know what I'm talking about. And it could be our own race of people as well. Like, however, it was a beautiful thing to see the kings, the queens. It was wonderful. I appreciate it. I love African art. I used to have so much African art in my house. Um, I think I want to go back and start collecting some more items again. I just love it. It's beautiful. It represents us. It represents power. It represents so much history that we need to get back into.
Right. So these are the still shots of many of the people we just spoke about. They go to King Shaka Zulu, the great Zulu warrior. Shaka celebrated King of Zulu nation in South Africa formed such a ferocious and disciplined military force that slave traders feared entering the land he had conquered. However, he was so ruthless and tyrannical that his own people plotted his assassination. You see that?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So we got Queen Anne Nzinga. Queen Nzinga declared Angola as a free territory to Africans fleeing the slave trade and kept the Portuguese slave traders from plundering the population in her country throughout her 50-year reign. So, just to speak back to Kanye West being wrong in making that statement, it goes and shows and proves that people like Shaka Zulu, Queen Anne Nzinga, they were fighting against the Portuguese who were trying to come in and enslave people, and the ones that came into South Africa. For years, it was a constant battle against the slave traders. And even, they was mutiny on side of the ships. So it was a constant struggle. And then there were many insurrections, hundreds of insurrections on American soil once they came over here.
And those who don't know better, they will definitely agree for what he said and not do their research. We constantly speak on do your own research. This was a part of our research to bring back to the community. Hello, Nikki. This is our way of saying we are better than that. We didn't just enjoy being a slave. We didn't not just fight. There was, as you saw, some rebelling, men and women. I don't want to say slave men and women that did not want to do that. Rape. We've been being raped for years. And where do we get all this stuff from? Once again, we got to really, really think back that we just see the now. We don't even understand where it came from. Why is our mindset the way it is?
Look at this queen right here, Hatshepsut. She was a female pharaoh. So some scholars regard Hatshepsut as the greatest female warrior of all time. Her father, Thutmose I, was highly impressed with the efficiency of his daughter and appointed her as manager and co-ruler of his kingdom. As his successor, she proved to be the most competent leader. As the first woman in recorded history to preside over a nation, Hatshepsut cast aside the theory of male supremacy, proclaiming herself pharaoh, often wearing the traditional male headdress and false beard. Her spurted defiance of male dominance, repelling attacks from several male rivals, including her stepson, Thutmose III. Yeah, that's Hatshepsut. So that's little known history. So, right, as we said, this is a depiction of an African tribe and their ceremonial culture. This is talking about Ethiopia, the world's oldest civilization, and the different things. Ethiopia, originally known as Sheba, is the world's oldest civilization. It is several thousand years older than the Roman and Greek cultures, and as well as the great civilizations of Asia. The Ethiopian Empire was so vast that it extended from India to Spain, much, much larger than the country of Ethiopia today. Wow. So this person right here, who is this person supposed to be again?
Oh, I don't even know.
Oh, this is Akhenaten, right? So Akhenaten, many people may not know, is considered the father of monotheism. What does that mean? So monotheism is the belief in one God. Before his time, many people believed in multiple gods or multiple Netchers or Orishas or whatever so have you. There's many different deities that people worshipped on a daily basis. But this person, Akhenaten, which was also Amenhotep the fourth, I believe, he actually said that it was only one God. Akhenaten, the Egyptian pharaoh during the 18th dynasty, is considered to be the father of monotheism. This doctrine, based on a belief in one God, is one which three major religions, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, later adopted.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's Akhenaten. Now, I don't know if this is accurate, but they have on him they have on his headdress a picture of Africa. So I don't really think that that's an accurate picture. I think they had different things on their headdresses actually in Kemet in his time.
Mm.
So that's the famous picture of Nefertiti,
Yes.
right? Many of us know about Nefertiti. So Queen Nefertiti, the wife of Pharaoh Akhenaten, this is Akhenaten's wife. Many people didn't know that Akhenaten his wife was Queen Nefertiti, right?
Mm.
So Queen Nefertiti, the wife of Pharaoh Akhenaten, became the ruler in her own right after the death of her husband. Nefertiti, meaning the beautiful or perfect woman has come, was made most famous by her bust that has been attributed to the sculptor Thutmose. Queen Nefertiti's bust is also the most copied piece of, of art of ancient Egypt. So this is a world famous
Yes, it
sculpture.
is. Wow.
Many of us had the Nefertiti necklaces, the Nefertiti. The women had the Nefertiti earrings. You had Nefertiti shirts. This has been around for a very very long time. So as you can see, this is 1370. She lived 1370 BC to 1330 BC.
Wow.
Thousands of years ago.
Yes, it was. I remember I bought my mom a Nefertiti, Queen Nefertiti. It was the head, but she was all black and it was just beautiful. So, just recently my sister was like, "You remember you bought mom that? I want one." I'm like, "Girl, if you only knew." I bought that years ago.
Right,
Wow.
right. So, like we said before, these are the founders of Fubu. I don't see how they went from ancient Kemet in Africa straight into Fubu. You know, that was kind of weird to me, but they definitely did some work, right? They definitely came up with a clothing brand that was strictly for the people and by the people. At least that's how they conceived it.
Hmm.
I know later on, it spread across the country and it blew up and then it became kind of, played out. But their initial thing that they were thinking about was for us, by us. I remember seeing when they first came on Video Music Box talking about how they founded this clothing company.
Wow.
So this is the Living Legends exhibit that we went through and we showed you the different pictures of. So this brother right here is old Earl Graver Jr. Senior. He's the founder of Black Enterprise Magazine.
Hmm.
So this right here is talking about the ballot,
Voted rights.
yeah, voting rights.
Mhm.
Okay, so this is a depiction of the Reconstruction era, which is right after. So Juneteenth, right, was started. Juneteenth was in 1865. So after 1865, they had what they call the Reconstruction era, and in this era, you had a lot of black people that actually went to public office. They became state senators, they became state congressmen and national congressmen. So it says Reconstruction is a period of history that focuses on African Americans and their struggle for integration into the mainstream Southern and American society. During this period, a series of so-called Reconstruction Acts laws aimed at protecting the rights of the newly freed slaves would consolidate black political support in the Republican Party. This affiliation would last throughout the end of the 19th century and into the early 20th century. A Republican dominated federal government enacted such legislation as the Civil Rights Acts of 1866 and the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments to the Constitution. The 13th Amendment abolished slavery. The 14th Amendment granted citizenship to all persons born or naturalized in the U.S. And the 15th Amendment guaranteed the right to vote to all male citizens, meaning the black women, like their white counterparts, were still disenfranchised. So basically, this is showing that right directly after slavery, you had people in the South that were actually Republicans. After slavery, many of the blacks that came out of slavery were Republicans, and they went to that party and they became part of office under that party. And the 15th Amendment, the 15th Amendment guaranteed them the right to vote. And this was before women had the right to vote, whether black or white.
Mm.
Right.
Wow, we were just talking about the amendments last week.
Yep.
For my class.
So this is as they was talking about the founders of the 100 Black Men of America and some of the people that was depicted there: Thomas Dorch, Dr. William Hayling, and Nathaniel Golston. Okay, so these are some of the bishops, some of the pastors from back in the days. We got Reverend Harold Carter, Bishop Reverend John Bryant, and Elder George Edwards. I can't make out the Bishop George Edward Battle.
Mm.
So these are the pictures that we briefly talked about earlier. This is the footsteps of the ancestors and Obama. So that's the end of that portion right there. So would you like to talk about that before we get into the last video?
What, that FUBU, I don't know how they did that either, but at the end of the day, they wanted to show, how how we grew, Here it is, this all black team of males who started up their own clothing line. I don't know how they went from kings, queens to this here, but I guess hopefully when we go back again, they probably rearrange stuff. I don't know, but at the end of the day, that was very enlightening. I would never even thought the FUBU would be in there, but it was very enlightening because I guess FUBU was maybe the first all black designer. That's what I'm thinking in my head. And then we have the 100 black men. Then then we have the black entrepreneur or enterprise or entrepreneurs. Enterprise. Okay. Which is a magazine now. Will definitely they definitely have all black, if I'm not mistaken, all black people that's doing great things in the community. I do have a couple of those magazines, which is it's really good, that magazine. However, and then we go into the other room where you have Shirley Chisholm, and then we have Mahalia, right? If I'm mistaken. And then we have the voting, area. So once again, it's all about research. And if you don't know the people and what they do, it's always good to have videos like this where you can go back and do your own research, get a better understanding of what they do and what they did in the community. So that's very helpful as well. I'm so happy that I was able to go to this museum and see us.
Right. Right. So we're gonna share the last video now. It's It was three videos, correct?
Yeah, let's go to the pictures.
You want to do the pictures or the last video?
Okay, last video.
Can you see the video?
Yeah, I see it. This one right here, I must say I did not know this until you brought it to my attention, and of course us reading it.
Discovered, or he just went to the Northern Pole. Mm-hmm.
So there was a black male by the name of Matthew Henson. Right. He was the first black explorer to North Pole, and the person that he was with took the credit for it.
Right. And
Oh, you know what we didn't show?
What?
We didn't show the oh gosh. Man, the train, the
Underground Railroad.
underground, yeah.
Yeah, I think I have some pictures of it.
Okay. This woman right here, she's the great black. What was it? Oh
She's a
God, I can't
physician,
keep.
first female physician.
Oh, that's
Yes,
what she really look like.
yes.
Yep.
The first black physician. Did you know it's crazy how we don't even know these things unless we do the research again? But to actually go and
Oh,
see
how
it is like wow. This same book is
yeah.
inside of the other museum, isn't it?
Yeah,
Nice.
from Slavery by Booker T. Washington.
Right.
I have that book too.
I know I've seen it before.
They have George Washington Carver, Booker T. Washington, great leaders from our past.
Oh wow. Did you see this one?
Granville T. Woods, an inventor.
Yep. I don't know what made me look up.
Yeah, I didn't even see him standing up there. I'm like, yeah, wow.
Are these the scientists?
Trying to make it seem like black is
Yeah.
Scientists and inventors.
we're not
Right.
important. We're not powerful. And then y'all see all this blackness, all this great stuff.
And they got a
This is where you
lot of history in this
Take your
Wax
children
Museum.
so they can see that we do matter.
This is our visit to the Great Black Wax Museum, the National Great Black Wax Museum in Baltimore, Maryland.
The only thing they see is what basketball players. And what's the other one? Rappers, dealers. We gotta get them out of that mindset. They
Yeah,
too
you're
can
100% right
change.
about that. Because we steering everybody to be basketball players and rappers. Now, say we wanted to
Yeah,
actually
baby.
start
You
a
get a little older.
society. How we gonna start a society with only basketball players and rappers?
Like, oh,
Who's gonna invent stuff? Who's gonna be the engineers? Who's gonna be the electricians, the plumbers, the house builders, the doctors, the lawyers? Who gonna be all of these people if everybody's a basketball player and a rapper?
Right. I mean, and then they go.
Marcus Garvey,
It says the father.
yeah.
of black nationalism.
Yep.
Marcus Garvey, the father of the modern black nationalism. They talking about the black entertainer there. So yeah, we do need entertainers. I mean, I'm not against entertainers. I used to love rapping back in the days, and I still love listening to my hip hop. But
Right.
you
But
have to have the person.
not to just push that that's all we are and that's all we have. You know, we could do so much more. I mean, I think once you go into a higher grades in school, and I'm talking about college and things in that nature, or you just step out of the box, step out the box, um, and feel that you deserve more, you deserve better, you can do it. Anybody can. It's just the fact that you have to have your paper in order because people will steal your stuff, as we know for years. Or if your paper's not in order, they will give you the less of the less because your papers is not in order.
Right.
Nelson Mandela.
Wow. African freedom fighters right here.
That's Willie. Willie? What's her name?
Winnie Mandela.
Nelson. Mm-hmm.
Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela did 25 years in prison.
Mm.
Right there, you got Rastafari, Haile Selassie, the Ethiopian king. The emperor, Haile Selassie.
Mm.
You got Jim Crow right here. Walter White, NAACP executive and secretary of the anti-lynching. See that right there where they had white water fountains and black water fountains.
Fannie Lou.
Got Fannie Lou Hamer.
Well, that's not.
Hyde,
Yeah, that's not her.
right next to us, Fannie Lou.
Right.
Fannie Lou Hamer, civil rights activist. Black women legends. Burley Evans Williams. Dr. Martin Luther King.
Martin.
Julian Bond.
Civil rights.
Dr. Grocer B. Curran. Medgar Wiley Evers. Don't shop here. This store won't hire Negroes. See, that's what we got to get back to. You see them sitting at the lunch counters. It's Malcolm X.
He was taking pictures.
Right. Black Power. We want to sit down like anyone else. See, this was in our recent history. Like, it's in our recent history where they wouldn't even allow us to sit down at the lunch counter. Like, we went to various restaurants when we was in Baltimore. Many of them restaurants, we probably wouldn't have even been able to sit down and get something to eat.
Right.
So what's your thoughts on that section right there?
To see that right there, given that room was a mixture of different people, the black legends, the leaders, the activists. It was just so much in that one room. It was amazing. Once again, inventors, scientists. So we need to stop thinking that we can't do what the next person can. We can. Unfortunately, we have to be in school for forever years when it come down to certain careers that we're going for. As a lawyer, you have to be in school for 6 years?
Mm-hmm.
One of my little cousins, she's going in to become a entertainment lawyer, which is great because a lot of our entertainers don't know they need a lawyer.
That's right.
To read their contracts, because once again, they would beat you upside the head and sign, or put these certain words in there that you be like, what? And did sign, and you sign, and next thing you know, you getting 10% of,
not even that.
Not
Nowhere
even
near
that.
10%.
Right. Whatever the percentage that they put on there, it could be less than 10% of every record deal, or every CD that's out there. Whatever the case may be, you always need to know what you're getting yourself into. We have so many great activists out here in Harlem is doing great work. You know, I hope, one day they will have a wax figure of themselves in these museums and show that we got it from somewhere. Once again, none of this stuff is new history. All this stuff is old history that we just recreating not even recreating the wheel. We just
The light.
bring it to light, right? Absolutely.
Yeah, it's great to see, depictions of the great ancestors that was actually out here putting in work and keeping their name alive. Some of the struggles that we're going through now, if we look back in history to what our ancestors was doing when they were fighting, then we would have better direction on the way that we're supposed to be addressing these issues. Because sometimes we try to start at square one again and again and again, start at square one, like we wasn't informed in the past on how to address these issues, and that's not good. We can't forget the history. So as we said before, when we came out of the slave ship, one of the things that during slavery happened was the Underground Railroad. Now, the Underground Railroad wasn't an actual railroad. Some people look at it as a railroad, but it was many different routes from the south to the north in which people would utilize through the cover of night to escape slavery. And one of the great people that helped us during this time period was Harriet Tubman, who actually guided hundreds and hundreds of slaves from the south to the north in her time. So as we are saying, the Underground Railroad wasn't actually a railroad, but it was different households. It was white people, black people, and various people that had households where they would hide escaped slaves. In this picture right here, you see a man placing another man in an oven. So
Right.
at first you're looking at it like, yo, what is going on here? Is he trying to burn this person alive? Because we just came from the slave quarters down in the slave ship. So we're like, what's going on? Is he trying to burn this man alive? But come to find out, what he was actually doing was helping the man to get away from slavery by putting them through this oven into a room where he could hide out.
Can you zoom up on that?
So see that? He's putting them through the oven, and on the other side, he would come out into this room where he could have refuge.
Right. So, this seemed like it was like, is it like an oven?
Yeah, that's one of the old stoves from back in the day, one of those wood stoves.
Right. So what they did was they put a hole on the other side of the wall. So when it's not lit, of course, if it was lit, it would be a how you call this?
Catastrophe.
No, besides that, when somebody is cremated, it would be a cremated situation. But it wasn't on. So on the opposite side, that's when, you're going through the wall, which was open, and you're meeting up with the person, or you just hiding out. And those are the things that they had to do to get out of the get away from those slave owners.
Right.
Those are the things that they have to do. So
they talk about Harriet Tubman here. She's considered a conductor of the Underground Railroad. And in this article by Vernon White, it says that the passage of the fugitive slave law put a price on the head and makes my job more dangerous. I was a slave in Maryland, but I escaped. Now I help my brothers and sisters to escape. And that's a quote by Harriet Tubman. The hut, built of rough-hewn logs and random size, lies far back in the woods, far away from the narrow dirt road that leads to a small southern town. It is hidden by stunted pine and sycamore trees that are hung with moss drippings of water. The cabin seems deserted. Now, no smoke rises from the chimney, and there are no windows. The path is overgrown with weeds, scrawny chickens scratch at the hard ground of food. So I guess they're talking about right there a place where Harriet Tubman actually was hiding out from the other people or whatever. So yeah, this is one of their depictions of the Underground Railroad. And then it talks about Harriet Tubman, aka Black Moses. She lived from 1820 to 1913. And it says slaves and those who worked to freedom them borrowed terms from railroading, conductor, passenger, signal, getting on board, etc., and used them to in coordinating the flight to freedom to the north, often under the cover of night.
Wow.
Yep. There's a lot of things that we went through. I mean, we take a lot of things for granted what was going on back in those days, but it was a constant struggle. And that's one thing that this wax museum showed, the constant struggle. Go ahead.
Yeah, I said no. It was a constant, like you said. I mean, when do they get time to sleep? And you know, it was just always something. You always got to watch your back and keep your eyes and ears open for the master. You know, and those what's those the slave workers? You know.
Right. So right here you got depictions of some people that led slave insurrections and revolution, right? So we got John Brown, some people consider the angriest white man, right? From 18 October 16th to the 18th of 1859, John Brown and a band of 21, including 5 black men and 16 whites, staged a raid on Harper's Ferry, West Virginia, and seized possession of the U.S. arsenal in the hope of arming slaves. Wounded, Brown was captured, tried, and put to death. He was hanged on December 2nd, 1859. And then you got Toussaint L'Ouverture, the architect of the Haitian independence revolution that happened in Haiti, where they fought against the French. Uh, L'Ouverture organized the slaves of Santo Domingo, Haiti, and led them to successful struggles against the Creoles, the English, and the Spanish, and the French. Under his leadership, Haiti became the first independent black republic in the Western Hemisphere, and he lived from 1743 to 1803. And lastly, you have Nat Turner, who was born a slave in Southampton County, Virginia. Nat Turner became the leader of the bloodiest slave revolt of America's history. Turner, along with 4 of the most trusted accomplices, planned the revolt and killed at least 55 white people with the help of 40 other slaves. After whites learned about the rebellion and joined together in mobs, Turner's fleet of men became disorganized and the plan was distorted. Turner was captured and imprisoned on October 30th, 1831. On November 3rd, 1831, Nat Turner was tried and sentenced to death. He was hanged on November 11th of 1831.
Wow.
So these are 3 basically revolutionaries: John Brown, Toussaint L'Ouverture, and Nat Turner, depicted at the Great Black Wax Museum in Baltimore, Maryland. So this right here depicted the Dred Scott case, the famous Dred Scott case, in which Dred Scott went against the government and he tried to fight for his freedom in the courts. And they basically said that the United States in the United States, black people have no rights that they were willing to protect. This is the Civil War. You know, a lot of people don't know that black people fought on both sides of the Civil War. Some people fought for the Union and some people fought for the Confederates.
Mm. Hmm.
This is a depiction of John Henry. You got that song they always used to sing, John Henry was a steel driving man. This is a picture of John Henry. Sculpture of John Henry. It says John Henry is known as the greatest African American folk hero. Hundreds of work songs going back as far as the 1880s have celebrated his tall, muscular, handsome black man who was employed as a steel driver on the Chesapeake and Ohio Railroad when the Big Bend Tunnel was being constructed in Western Virginia. Seeing the steel drilling machine and his own value as a hardworking man, as well as the dignity of fellow workers, John Henry challenged the machine manufacturer's agent to an all-day contest against the machine. At the close of the grim and heroic contest, it was found that John Henry had drilled 18 inches deeper than the steam drill. But as he laid down his triumphant hammer, he fell dead. John Henry's plight dramatized the situation of untold thousands of black workers who were displaced by the mechanization of labor.
Wow.
So he went against a machine and actually beat the machine and then died. Wow. So this is a depiction of the black cowboys. It's talking about the Black West. A lot of people, when they talk about cowboys and you speak about cowboys and Indians, a lot of people don't know that they were also black cowboys.
Mm-hmm.
So Americans learning about the development of the West from the history books, school texts, novels, and movies and television do not recognize the large role of black people in the settlement of the West. Many Americans have never heard of the black explorers, trappers, fur traders, gold prospectors, buffalo soldiers, homesteaders, cowboys, and wranglers who were an intricate part of the West. They were even black outlaws such as Cherokee Bill, who was considered to be so bad that he can make Billy the Kid and Jesse James both look like Boy Scouts. So many blacks trekked westward between 1840 and 1890 that today there are more all black towns in the West than in any other section of the country.
Wow.
And I guess that depiction was of Bill Pickett, who invented the rodeo sport of bulldogging, which involved leaping off a horse, grabbing the steer's horns, and wrestling the giant beast into the dust. In 1911, Pickett became the first black cowboy to be voted into the Cowboy Hall of Fame.
Ain't that song?
A lot of the stories people don't know about.
Right.
So, and then we get into Matthew Henson, as you spoke about, which went on that expedition to actually go to the North Pole with Robert Perry. And Robert Perry basically received all the credit, but Matthew Henson, I think, was the first one to actually reach the North Pole. So this was talking about sharecroppers. So one of the things that people did after slavery, right? Some of the slaves would still stay on the plantations in which they were once slaves. So now they were free, and they would work the land. But what happened is that instead of being in physical slavery, now they were in economic slavery. What do I mean by that? They basically would work the land and they would get everything fronted to them by their former slave masters. And at the end of the year, all of the stuff that they were fronted, they would have to pay back. But somehow they always winded up being in debt and never paying off that debt. So they continued to have to work the land basically for free because they would always end up owing at the end of the year. Yeah. All right. So this is that section. Got Kathy Hughes. We talk about Booker T. Washington, leader and educator. He wrote that book, Up from Slavery. You got George Washington Carver, the agricultural scientist, right? These are prominent figures. So George Washington Carver was born in Missouri in 1864. After emancipation, Carver got a high school education while working as a farm laborer. He became the first black student to be admitted to the Simpsons College in Indiana, Iowa. He earned a bachelor's and a master's degree and was hired as an assistant botanist by the college. In 1886, Booker T. Washington offered him a post in the Tuskegee Institute in Alabama, where Carver spent the rest of his life doing research. His development of products from crops such as peanuts, sweet potatoes, and soybeans helped the South shed its dependence on cotton. From peanuts alone, he derived more than 300 products, among them soap, ink, flour, dyes, cosmetics, cheese, and milk. Carver never patented any of his discoveries. So he never had patents on any of his discoveries. So that's something that we're going to be studying today. We're going to be studying patents, copyrights, and all of these things that many of these black inventors never were able to reap the benefits off of their intellectual property because they never had the patents or the copyrights to the stuff that they created.
Right. So that's one of the things that I was speaking of before we got into that piece. You always need to know if you're a inventor and you believe that you're the only one who invented this, or you want to come up with a organization, if you want to come up with this, you have a song that's hot, always have your copyright and trademarks of whatever it is. If you're a designer, if your logo, whatever it is, these are the things that, whatever it is, once again, you must always have your paperwork. I remember when I started We Are Phenomenal Women, somebody said, oh, just write out a letter to yourself and put it underneath your bed and, mail it. And okay, that's one form. But once you get into, you having some money, make sure you have the proper letters and proper information. If you want to be a store owner, whatever it is, make sure you have your papers right, because people will take your stuff, your ideas, and just run with it.
It's a fact. So basically, that's the end of that section. This is just some of the stuff that we've seen. We wanted to share it with you. Um, I mean, we've been on for a while now, so we don't want to go too deep into the stuff. Some of the stuff you're gonna have to see for yourself. But look, they even had Elijah Muhammad. They had Malcolm X, right? So we just wanted to give you a basic Noble Drew Ali. You have to look these names up. Look into the history of Elijah Muhammad. A lot of people talk about Malcolm X, but they don't talk about the one who taught Malcolm X, which was Elijah Muhammad, and what he was able to accomplish. And then many people don't talk about Noble Drew Ali, which was the founder of the Moore Science Temple.
Mm.
As founder of the Moore Science Temple, Noble Drew Ali was one of the first to introduce Islam to urban Black America. His mission was to restore the true nationality of African Americans, to have them proclaim their nationality, Moorish American, their race Asiatic, and the shade of their skin olive.
Wow.
Yeah.
Remember, the only person they should, one of the persons they should have had, like you said, Muhammad Ali. They
Right.
didn't have him there.
So but they did have three great Black sports figures right here, right? So I don't know if you've seen the movie 42, but here they had. Let me see if I can rotate this. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So here you got Joe Louis, boxing champion, right? 1981. Joe Louis began an amateur boxing career at 18 years old. After winning the National Athletic Union light heavyweight title, Louis turned to professional in 1934. In his meteoric rise, Joe Louis fought his way from the ranks of beginner to become the world heavyweight champion in 1937. In 1936, Louis suffered a history-making defeat to Max Schmeling, a German heavyweight boxer. This loss became part of Adolf Hitler's Nazi propaganda that blacks were an inferior race. In 1938, in a comeback bout, Joe Louis knocked out Schmeling and regained his title.
Wow.
So then they had Jackie Robinson. Jackie Robinson was born in Cairo, Georgia in 1919. As a young man, Jackie Robinson was always involved in sports, playing baseball, basketball, football, and track. Robinson went on to play in the Negro Baseball League in 1945. In 1947, the president of the Brooklyn Dodgers asked Jackie Robinson to play for his team. Robinson became the first black player to break the color barrier in Major League Baseball.
Mhm.
He voted the league most valuable player in 1949. Robinson compiled an outstanding record as hitter, fielder, and base stealer. And then last but not least, you have Jesse Owens. Jesse Owens was born in Oakville, Alabama, and went on to become a track and field legend. He won 4 gold medals in the 1936 Olympics in Berlin, Germany, in the 100 and 200 yard dash, the 220-yard hurdles, and the long jump. Owens demonstrated to Adolf Hitler firsthand that blacks were not the physically and mentally inferior group he harangued to the world. So basically, these sports figures were able to show and prove that physically we were not inferior to white people, right? Joe Louis, he was able to get into the boxing ring, and although he was defeated by Max Schmeling, he was able to defeat Max Schmeling. And Jackie Robinson was able to break the color line because at that time they only had white players in baseball, and baseball was the national pastime in America. And he was able to break that color line and to excel in the sport. And lastly, Jesse Owens was able to break records and to go to the Olympics and do great things that basically stopped what Hitler was trying to propagate in the world, that there was this superior master race of Aryan white people.
Wasn't he a runner, Jesse Owens?
Yes.
Okay. I remember us watching the story on him.
Yeah.
So this was only one floor that we went.
Right.
This was only one floor. There's 2 other floors that we are not going to get into because at the end of the day, you have to go and see everything for yourself. And it definitely make you feel good and it makes you feel bad, you know, because, it makes you feel bad on the fact of all the stuff that we have gone through. And it also make you feel good because we are forever fighting and we can succeed. We can do it. And we will as long as we stick together and do what we have to do. Um, to see some of us in this wonderful museum was really, really helpful because some of the people that you don't even know nothing about.
Yo, so we got a call out. My good brother from Kenya,
Yes.
from the Maasai tribe, my brother James Martinet says, safe travels. Next trip in Kenya.
Yes.
So he wants us to come to Kenya.
Yeah, that would be great. That would be great.
My brother and I, we've been friends on Facebook for a long time, and I've been seeing him over there with his tribe, and he always, comments, always says peace. So, I would love to come over there to Kenya. If you could tell us, where we could stay at or how we organize this trip, I definitely would love to come over there to Kenya.
Of course, definitely. Definitely. So shout out to you, James. Thank you so much. Salute, brother. And if you are a father, godfather, uncle, brother, a king image in someone or in, the queen's life, happy Father's Day. And you don't necessarily have to be a father, or, a dad. You could also be a godfather. You could also be an uncle that, you know, we look up to. When I say we, I'm saying all, you know, we, men, women, babies, you know, we look up to. So we definitely want to give you a shout out. Thank you, James. And we would love to go to Kenya. Please send Brother IB some information so that way we can get out there.
Definitely. So, that's all from our trip that we're gonna share today. I guess we get into the last little bit of current events, and then we're gonna close out for the day.
Okay.
All
Great.
right. So there was a couple of things that happened that we did want to talk about. One of the first things was Juneteenth. So Juneteenth happened over the weekend, and we wanted to briefly talk about that. This is the historical legacy of Juneteenth. So this is the historical legacy of Juneteenth, and this is it. This is presented by the National Museum of African American History and Culture. Did you have a video? You didn't send me the video, did you?
No.
Okay. So on Freedom's Eve, on the eve of January 1st, 1863, the first watch night services took place. On that night, enslaved and free African Americans gathered in churches and private homes all across the country, awaiting news that the Emancipation Proclamation had taken effect. At the stroke of midnight, prayers were answered as all enslaved people in Confederate states were declared legally free. Union soldiers, many of them who were black, marched on the plantations and across cities in the South, reading small copies of the Emancipation Proclamation, spreading the news of freedom in Confederate states. Only through the 13th Amendment did emancipation and slavery throughout the United States. But not everyone in the Confederate territory would immediately be free. Even though the Emancipation Proclamation was made effective in 1863, it would not be implemented in the places still under Confederate control. As a result, in the westernmost Confederate state of Texas, enslaved people could not be free until much later. Freedom finally came June 19th, 1865, when some 2,000 Union troops arrived in Galveston Bay, Texas. The Army announced that the more than 250,000 enslaved black people in the state were free by executive decree. This day became known as Juneteenth by the newly freed people in Texas.
Mm.
And this is the actual proclamation of emancipation. The post-emancipation period, known as the Reconstruction, 1865 to 1877, marked the era of great hope and uncertainty and struggle by the nation as a whole. Formerly enslaved people immediately sought to reunify families, establish schools, run for political office, push radical legislation, and even sue slaveholders for compensation. Given the 200 plus years of enslavement, such changes were nothing short of amazing. Not even a generation out of slavery, African Americans were inspired and empowered to transform their lives and their country. Juneteenth marks our country's second Independence Day. Although it has long been celebrated in African American community, this monumental event remains largely unknown to most Americans. The historical legacy of Juneteenth shows the value of never giving up hope in uncertain times. The National Museum of African American History and Culture is a community space where their spirit and hope lives on, a place where historical events like Juneteenth are shared and new stories with equal and urgency are told. I got the pictures too. I also got the pictures from our trip to the National Museum of History and Culture in Washington, D.C. Maybe one day we'll share those with you.
Oh yes, yes. I want to go back.
You want to go back?
Yeah, I would love to go back. You know, it. I think one. I think we should just do that. Just go to different museums and aquariums and and just share. You know, and not only that, not just to come back and share. Is I'm sure you know a lot of it, but it's for myself as well. Like you know, maybe we do a trip to these places, you know, with the community, have the community pay for their trip, pay for their ticket, and let's go. You know.
Why not? I mean, it's all education. It's all education. It's all edifying our cultural awareness. It's great. So we definitely have to do that. So
Mm-hmm.
this right here happened over the weekend as well. Biden signed the bill by making Juneteenth a federal holiday, which means it's all across the country a national holiday. And I think that Cuomo also made it a state holiday. So this article is from the Associated Press by Kevin Freaking on June 17th, 2021. And right there you have um the female. What is the elder's name right there? With
Oprah. Oh,
Biden.
Oprah.
Opal,
Okay.
right. Opal. So it says Washington Associated Press, President Joe Biden signed legislation Thursday establishing a new federal holiday commemorating the end of slavery, saying he believes it will go down as one of the greatest honors he has as president. Biden signed into law a bill to make Juneteenth or June 19th the 12th federal holiday. The House voted 415 to 14 on Wednesday to send the bill to Biden, while the Senate passed the bill unanimously the day before. This is a day of profound weight and profound power, a day in which we remember the moral stain, the terrible toll that slavery took on the country and continues to take, Biden said. Juneteenth commemorates June 19th, 1865. So we know the story. We just spoke about the story. So basically, they signed into law to make Juneteenth a federal holiday, which basically celebrates the fact that the people in Galveston, Texas were told that they were free. Now, there has been a lot of pushback about the signing of this bill into law as far as making this national holiday when other bills that we feel were more important to our lives here in America have not been signed, such as the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, the Anti-Lynching Act, and various other bills that are still sitting on the table in these two houses. And we think that people have been trying to basically give us a carrot on the stick by giving us these little lackluster bills. Signing these lackluster bills and national holidays that really don't have any further grounding in our lives beyond being symbolic. These are symbolic gestures. We need something with teeth. We need something that is going to ensure that we have human rights in this country.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
How you
I
see
agree.
that?
Huh?
How do you see that?
No, I totally agree. You know, there is so many different bills, like you said, that's on the table, even with domestic violence. So many different bills that's on the table, and it's just there, you know. And you know, I understand everybody feel like, you know, we got something, we did something, and we celebrating, and it's a beautiful thing to celebrate something that means a lot to you. However, what about all the other bills that will benefit not just to you but to all?
Right.
You know, so we're just on the now, but we now as in right now and not the future. You know, until something happens to your family member, now you're like, I want this George Floyd bill to be passed now, blah blah blah. But we just gave you a federal holiday, you know. And listen. At the end of the day, like everybody's, a lot of us said, thank you for the holiday. I had a day off. I had a whole week. I had a week off. You know, a couple of days off, which is great. However, is more. is more things that's very important. Just like I'm not mad at the whole Black Lives Matter that was on the street 125th in Brooklyn. We even seen it in Atlanta City. Love it, love it, love it. It meant something. What did we do? We go back out and celebrate again, and we just like woohoo! Yes, we did something. And guess what? Now when you go to 125th Street by the State Building, you don't even see a lick of paint.
Right. The paint is faded.
That is gone, huh?
Right. And the problems remain.
And the problems are still here. So what was the use? What was the use of doing all of that? And once again, that's only to give you a little piece of the meat when we got a whole plate of issues.
Right. So I wanted to highlight this right here. I don't think I have heard too many people talk about this in the media or on social media. So this is something that I think that we need to pay more attention to. This is one of the executive orders that Biden signed in January when he came into office. This executive order is on advancing racial equity and the support of underserved communities through the federal government. And it was signed on January 20th, 2021. And it says in Section 1 that equal opportunity is the bedrock of American democracy, and our diversity is one of our country's greatest strengths. But for too many, the American dream remains out of reach. Entrenched disparities in our laws and public policies and in our public and private institutions have often denied equal opportunity to individuals and communities. Our country faces conversion, economic, health, and climate crises that have exposed and exacerbated inequities, while a historic movement of justice has highlighted the unbearable human cost of systemic racism. Our nation deserves an ambitious whole of government equity agenda that matches the scale of opportunities and challenges that we face. It is therefore the policy of the administration that the federal government should pursue a comprehensive approach to advancing equity for all, including people of color and others who have been historically underserved, marginalized, and adversely affected by the persistent poverty and inequality. Affirmatively advancing equity, civil rights, racial justice, and equal opportunity is the responsibility of the whole of our government. Because of advancing equity requires a systemic approach for embedding fairness in the decision-making processes, executive departments and agencies must recognize and work to redress inequities in their policies and programs that serve as barriers to equal opportunity. So it's a lot of stuff in this bill. I mean, in this executive order right here. So in this order, it has basically the definitions of who are underserved communities, the term equity, which means the consistent and systemic, fair, just, and impartial treatment of all individuals, including individuals who belong in underserved communities that have been denied such treatment, such as Black, Latino, and Indigenous and Native American persons, Asian Americans, and Pacific Islanders, and other persons of color, members of religious minorities, LGBT, persons with disabilities, and persons who live in rural areas. The term underserved communities refers to population sharing a particular characteristic as well as geographic communities that have been systemically denied a full opportunity to participate in aspects of economic, social, and civic life, as exemplified by the list in the preceding definition of equity. So it defines the role of the Domestic Policy Council, which is the White House Domestic Policy Council, is to coordinate and the formulation and the implementation of the administration's domestic policy objectives. And consistent with this role, the DPC will coordinate efforts to embed equity principles, policies, and approaches across the federal government. It's going to work to identify methods to assess equity, right? Basically, they're going to do a study with the heads of agencies, study methods of assessing whether agency policies and uh, actions create or exacerbate barriers to full and equal participation by all eligible individuals. They're going to do a study and conducting an equity assessment in the federal agencies. They're going to do also allocating federal resources to advance fairness and opportunity, promoting equitable delivery of government benefits and equitable opportunities, engagement with members of underserved communities, establishment of an equitable data working group, revocation of other legislation, and general provisions, right? So this piece of legislation right here, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of us is talking about things that need to be done. But under this legislation, we should be utilizing the different parts of this legislation to get to what we need.
Mm.
So who is out there that's advocating the different provisions of this legislation so that people know what to point to when they're asking for what they're asking for?
Right, that's true.
Because the Asian community was able to get another Asian hate bill passed, but they're also a part of this legislation.
Mm.
So why shouldn't we be advocating for the actual things that are in this legislation?
Mm-hmm.
And it's very important for us to know what's in this legislation. So once again, it's an executive order signed by Biden advancing racial equity and support of underserved communities through the federal government. And recently, after the passing of this, he had a rally where he spoke about how he's going to unveil his plan for racial equity. So I'm going to share some of the information that he put out. And this was at the 100th anniversary of the Tulsa race riot, right? The Black Wall Street massacre. So at the centennial anniversary at the Black Wall Street race massacre, he spoke about how he plans to unveil his plan for racial equity, right? So he traveled to Tulsa, Oklahoma to meet with survivors of the city's 1921 race massacre, unveiling a broad plan to drive racial equity throughout the country while holding up the city's past as evidence of the pervasive effect of racism. Monday and Tuesday marked the centennial, and the president spent a significant portion of his speech giving a historical recounting of the events of 100 years ago in Tulsa. He talked about what happened in Tulsa, and then he announced plans to expand and target federal purchasing power to benefit more minority-owned businesses. His administration will also submit in the coming days multiple rules that strengthen anti-discrimination housing measures rolled back during the Trump administration. The president pointed to Tulsa as an illustration of the ways in which highways segregated cities. Black Americans face a more difficult path to home ownership, and impoverished communities have been given the resources to climb into the middle class. So basically, he's breaking down in his presentation on this day at the Tulsa Centennial how he plans on increasing equity in the Black community. But I don't think too many people are paying attention to exactly the things he said. So if you're an advocate for some of these things, I think that you need to pay more attention to what's going on during these presentations, what's being said, and utilizing these things to actually advance the agendas that we need to move forward. So I don't want to belabor the point too much more. The last article that I wanted to share before we end for today is the recent bill that was passed in the state assembly. that deals with reparations. And this is in the Amsterdam News. They share that the reparations bill has been passed in the New York State Assembly, and it has to be passed in the state Senate and signed into law by Cuomo. So if you want to look that up, you can look it up. This is in the Amsterdam News on 6/17/2021, written by Herb Boyd, and it says reparations bill is passed in the New York State Assembly. As promised, by noon on June 10th, a crowd gathered at the memorial site. Barron, who was joined at the event by his wife, Councilmember Inez Barron, said the bill sets up a commission that will include, among elected officials, 2 representatives from 3 local Black community groups, including the National Coalition of Blacks for Reparations in America and the Institute of the Black World of the 21st Century. And this is Charles Barron saying this. Members of the December 12th movement applauded the state assembly for passing the bill authored by Barron and insisting that the state Senate act today to complete the stage of the campaign. We, the December 12th movement, who for over 30 years have been waging the war for reparations, locally, nationally, and internationally, in the streets, in the classrooms, and in the courts, are honored to be one of the 3 community representative organizations designated by the commission. Omawale Clay said that the December 12th movement will be holding a Juneteenth commemoration at Frederick Douglass Square, formerly Nostrand and Jefferson Avenues in Brooklyn, to begin at noon on Saturday. The reparation bill complements our campaign to demand an executive order from President Biden providing $50 billion down payment on the reparations to be directed to the reform of healthcare delivery systems in the Black communities, the organization stated. Among the attendees was Larry Ham of POP, People's Organization of Progress from New Jersey. A banner unfurled at the African burial ground was emblazoned with the watchwords of the December 12th movement. They stole us, they sold us, they owe us reparations now. So basically, to conclude, and what all of the things that we've been talking about today at the Black Wax Museum here in New York, they have an actual reparations bill that has been approved by the state assembly and must next go to the state senate and then be signed into law by the governor. This bill basically sets up a commission that will actually detail what exactly they feel or what exactly the information shows us that they owe us for our treatment here in America during slavery. And it's something that will be done in New York State. And if passed into law, this commission will further give their information about the actual debt that is owed. And then they will have to sign into law what exactly will be paid to the African Americans in New York State. So,
Wow.
you know, it's been a long presentation.
Wow. That was deep. That we just tied that all in there. Like, that was really good. We gave information, we gave informative information. Not just information, we gave informative information.
Right.
You can't ask for nothing better.
Right. So we're gonna end on that note. We didn't have any callers call in today, but salute to everybody. Happy Father's Day. I know probably everybody is out there celebrating, it's just a festive atmosphere right now with the bills that are being passed and the different things that are going on as far as reparations and Father's Day and just celebrating coming out of COVID and getting back to life.
Right. I mean, we always had life. It's just getting back to somewhat of the norm of moving around but I still wear my mask.
Yeah, I still wear my mask too.
Still wear my mask.
I think they're looking at me kind of strange out there in Baltimore while I was wearing my mask though. I don't know. I guess people they're not wearing masks anymore. So it's like, why you got this mask on? What you did?
Right.
You get shot? You didn't
Right.
get jabbed. You running around with a mask. But you know, it was during the presentation. They just recently had the public health presentation for Bar Prison Initiative, and one of the presenters, my man Elon, he was talking about how the youth that was out here during the pandemic, they never wore masks, and they never cared, and they basically felt that, you know, it's so much other stuff going on in our lives and so much danger that's going on in the community. Why would we be worried about the pandemic? So his project was actually engaging with this youth, and he basically broke down how they just felt like their life was already at danger. So, you know, a pandemic was the least of their worries.
Wow.
And they have been out the whole time.
Yep. And not to mention, you know, we also have some of the people in Washington Square Park. They was out, you know, sleeping out there. They were just out. And we didn't hear anything about them at all.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, I say salute. Happy Father's Day. Salute to the father of the nation, Father Allah. Peace to you, King. Peace to my father, Gerald Ali. Rest in power. I love you. And salute to my babies, my Junior, my Mister, and my Aliyah.
Wow.
And with that, I say peace.
Peace.
Oh, salute to Dayanera and my young grandson, Amir.
Yes. All the little ones. Right.
I love all y'all. Thanks for all the Father's Day wishes. And we'll catch y'all on the next one.
No doubt. Peace.
Peace.